It's the weekly 30-30 trading list on the ASX. We're reviewing the 30 best momentum companies over the last quarter and those that have had the best momentum improvement in the last week, what we call the launchpad. Gary Glover has been through both lists and pulled out the best charts to review right here, right now. Good morning, Gary. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great, Chris.
It's always good when we have a Friday and you go through the lists and you find theme or some great charts or some good patterns to look at. So when you're having a look at the list at the moment in the current market environment, what's popping out to you?
Yeah, so we're still there's still gold's popping out to me, Chris. So we had 8 or 9 gold stocks last week in the launchpad, and then I think there's another 4 or 5 laggards there that have popped in this week into the launchpad. So they're pretty robust. So there's that's still pretty pretty positive. Their gold's obviously had like the strongest stocks there's a few stronger stocks in there about 3 weeks ago. Things like maybe Ramelius and West Gold, which were sort of holding up pretty well. Then last week we just saw we had like 9 stocks in the top 30. They're all popping there, all doing all the false breaks down the low, like a little bit of a spring setup and then wash out there. And then we got a few laggards there today. I think you get a few in there as well. So that's probably the most interesting thing there from the list there. Some of there's a few in the quarterly. Obviously, the quarterly stuff there, like the market's a bit weak here. Does look like we're about to go to war, which does sound a bit harrowing. I think I mentioned sort of just before we went online, or we started recording here, that does remind me a little bit of '03. The last sort of Middle East war there as well, which the market had been going down for quite a while, and then the sort of Iran war broke out. I remember I was pretty short, had been short, through a lot of that period. But when that war was over in a week, and the market just took off. It absolutely just, I was actually really short. I actually got my face ripped off big time. It was one of the biggest lessons for me about trying to short the market, selling naked calls and stuff. That was the last time I ever sold a naked call. But yeah, sort of like just feels a bit like that. The market's been pulling back here. A lot of stocks are sort of coiling down here, but this is not good what's happening here globally. So it does going to put pressure on it. But just wonder whether this is going to be. Everyone thought Ukraine and Russia was going to be over in a week, and then it ended up lagged here. This one, I think everyone's thinking this could drag on a bit, but maybe it could be over really quickly. So just be prepared for a bit of volatility here. Just because the market's sort of come back quite a bit here. It's sort of, it's interesting. I mean, even things like I thought the gold's had a big move here, Chris, and gold stocks look pretty good, but the price hasn't been stronger actually. And the oil price has actually had a cracking run as well. And I think the oil stocks actually, there's quite a few of them on the weekly list here. And they're, I thought they looked okay here, but they still don't look that strong to me. So that's kind of weird as well. So why don't we start from the top here?
So we go into the quarterly momentum, the ones that are already leading and running hard.
Yeah, so I noticed Noxo Farm is actually number 3 on the list. That's a little biotech there, I think, which has some pretty good results out there. So it's had a bit of a pop here. Interesting thing there is it's sort of good volume on the up, sort of contracting. On lighter volume, then volume again, moving up and contracting back here. So it sort of looks like our sort of getting a few higher lows sort of in there. So that still looks kind of solid, even though it's had a bit of a pop. Still looks pretty solid to me. So thought that's definitely one to sort of keep an eye on there, because I think the price action is okay. Number 5
biotech companies in the list for the last few weeks, hasn't there?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so Biotron as well, BIT, I thought was interesting as well. It's had a pretty big move here, pretty big volume. But we pulled back here. Look at the volume there. That's a little shark pattern there, where your sort of price goes up and the volume goes down. You sort of get your a little shark pattern, which sounds funny, but it's actually not. It's actually interesting to see when the price does sort of pull back like that with a really lighter volume. So
If it's got a pullback, that's the kind of volume profile you want to see, isn't it?
Yeah. So you want to see it pull back and dry right up here, which it's done here. So that still looks pretty interesting as well. So that looks okay. VMM was one we actually spoke about last week, Chris. So it was sort of one that I actually did sort of call out there as sort of, because this has sort of had this impulsive move and then corrective. They're impulsive and then corrective here, and the whole thing was sort of tightening up here.
The coiling, the low volume type flow.
Did mention this. I did look at this actually stock here. I don't know. I sort of took it off my radar actually. I got sort of sidetracked by other things. But look at that. That's actually it's had a pullback here, had a second pullback, little VCP starting to set up, had another little rally, little contraction there, started to push through. That is as good as it gets here in terms of little VCPs. Sitting on top of the highest space here, a bit like Remelius did, and then gone through here. So, yeah, I was sort of kicking myself there. Actually, it's sort of one that I circled last week. Didn't trade it here, but that's had a really, really nice pop here. So, great little VCP pattern, just textbook, sort of perfect. Next on the list there was Deep Yellow. So uranium there. So, look, I've been a little bit worried about uranium just because seeing quite a bit of distribution sort of pattern there, but did say what would probably happen here either for me would either go down or go sideways. So I think we've had a little bit of tight congestion here, and that now we've sort of popped up here. So it's a bit of a surprise to me they're actually popped a new high here, but still view this as maybe still might be part of a larger sort of sideways pattern here. So I'm still sort of a bit concerned by that one. Remelius there, as I mentioned, has been one of the strongest goals. That was on the launch pad 3 weeks ago, Chris, I think it was. Was one of the first, I think Remelius and West Gold, they were the two gold stocks that was sort of leading there. There might have been a third one there as well. But look, that's been so firm here, so been a good little trade there. I've actually sort of moved my target to 181. I just think it looks still pretty robust. WGX, it was the other one I mentioned. That had gone to a new high. At this point here, it had broken out to a new high. Did have a bit of a throwback, but that was when the gold really sort of sold off pretty aggressively. So it's held up pretty well. It's gone straight up to a new high again. So definitely showing some sort of relative strength there. SPR Spartan Resources manages. This one's a bit surprising there. Sort of managed to sort of keep going here, Chris. So this is one of those ones that's been in the I don't know. It's probably been there like 45, 50 days, even maybe longer. It's probably the longest in there at the moment.
Definitely in this market, we have seen it in the previous years where we've had companies stay in the list for a long time, but in the current climate, that's a very long time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but most things aren't sort of following through and driving on for a long time at the moment. It seems to be sort of short-lived there. Bannerman there has probably had the biggest correction of the move so far. Volume has sort of dried up there, but again, I'm just seeing a few distribution signs in some of the uranium stocks. So I'm just I'd still be a little cautious there. Or just make sure you tighten your stop up there. EMR has been pretty robust there. Emerald Resources. Just come back to the 50 and then obviously kept going here. Pretty tight sort of square little consolidation. EML was a bit of a surprise on there. That's sort of held on pretty tight as well. So, that's had a really, impulsive sort of corrective sideways, impulsive up, corrective sideways, impulsive, corrective sideways. It's still not, there's no volume. Not much selling going on in here. No one's still really selling this here yet. So, so it still looks pretty constructive, EML. So it's not really a sort of favourite sector of mine, but that stock is trending pretty well, moving higher quite freely, struggling to go down. So it looks pretty robust. Gold Road was the other gold stock. That might have been actually the one that was in there previously as well. So
yeah, you have mentioned Gold Road before. That's for sure.
That's pretty robust as well. MGH actually was an interesting one there. I did sort of see this there, got the old sort of cup and handle here, Chris. Nice and tight too, little.
Yeah, they're holding really tight in the range, that one.
Yeah, David Ryan, sort of that whole little consolidation under the high there. So that's sort of broken out to a new high there. So that's, that still looks pretty robust there. Always sort of zoom out to the weekly when I sort of see that. So this has sort of been building, your high lows in here, sort of breaking out here. So that's, that's Nicholas Davis there breaking out to 52-week high there. He'd be buying those sort of highs there. So can get a little throwback there sometimes. But they a lot of those stocks do have a habit of sort of kicking on there. Ticker data's actually done really traded really well here, Chris, the last few days here. In the face of the weakness there, when we had that VCP there, I mentioned this is one that I did trade there. Don't know why I didn't trade it more, a bit heavier, but I have traded it quite nicely. I sort of sold half into strength. Let's pull back here. This is sort of corrective there, pretty light volume so far. Still sort of sitting on top of the last little high, you might sort of say here. So still sort of somewhat constructive there, considering the weakness in the overall market. Stock's holding up quite nicely. So that does still look pretty decent. ABB was the last one there. Again, look, a bit of a square. Yeah, tight sideways there. The only thing is we sort of have flicked up to a new high there and didn't go on with it. So just got to be careful of a little false break up here now. Just don't mind sort of seeing it. Just a bit of volume there yesterday. So probably just going to be, this is one, if you were along playing that little consolidation breaking out, you probably just want to make sure you stop sort of tight in there. You just don't want to see it fail here. If it fails here, you'll be in a bit of trouble. But if it can kick on here, then maybe there's one more leg left in it. But that's one to tighten up here. That's the quarterly list. So I thought that was pretty kind of interesting there. A bit of a mix of names in there. But it does sort of highlight the state of the market there really with golds and you mentioned too that it was XTE. Actually, there was a good pickup from you. Actually, was XTE was one stock there, which was
the defense segment.
Yeah, defense. So obviously selling sort of products, for war. So what do you call it? Yeah, jackets and bulletproof jackets and
munitions and ordnance and unmanned aerial surveillance, I think it was.
Yeah. So probably one to keep an eye on there, just considering what's happening here. You probably want to see a bit of consolidation there first. But yeah, maybe just one to keep an eye on in the climate.
That was it. Provider of security and defense solutions, including body armor, advanced ballistic protection, explosive ordnance disposal, small unmanned aerial systems, and tactical protective solutions.
Okay.
Sounds like war extended.
Yeah, look, if it drags on here, that might be there might be one to sort of keep an eye on that.
Like Lockheed Martin, we were talking about some 22 years ago.
Yeah. Now looking at your launchpad here, number 2 on the list was Paradigm. And I thought this was really interesting, Chris, this Paradigm, because this is sort of osteoarthritis there. It sort of had a really favourable announcement there maybe about a week or a half ago about some really positive data there. The stock sort of gapped up and then was just met with selling. It really just sold off the whole day and it ended up sort of selling off for 2 days. It's right. Traded for a couple more days, kind of recovered then. But then some more basically data came out, which was that they basically sort of had moved from their sort of 10 milligrams to sort of 20 milligrams, and the patient data was actually even better to the point where they were actually getting cartilage regrowing. Cartilage was starting to regrow in the knees and stuff there from after the treatment and stuff there. So really, what I would describe as pretty significant data there. If anyone knows that sort of biotechs there, Paradigm is a repurposed drug, so drug's already being used for another purpose. So oftentimes, there'll be a drug approved, and it'll but this is the same for actually like all the obesity drugs. They were actually approved for
diabetes, was it? Or
diabetes, yeah. So they find that when having other diabetes people are using them, one of the side effects was they're all stopped eating, or they're all there seems to be suppression of their hunger. So we go and do some tests on that. So Paradigm there, obviously they must have found that people they seem to be moving a bit, or having some positive side effects in these other areas. So then they go and test in those areas. The beauty of repurposed sort of drugs is that they're already being cleared by the FDA. So to get through the whole process there, it's a lot less sort of...
a lot of the heavy lifting's already been done.
Yeah, you don't have to do this. You might have to do a smaller trial there because the run's already been proved sort of safe. So it's just a matter of trying to come up with the right sort of dosage, which will be the most effective. So it looks like Paradigm is sort of at that stage here. So it's still 200 mil market cap or just under. But gee, I read that data and just thought that is fantastic. And when I sort of saw that, must have been Tuesday, I thought, wow, this could be a game changer type of trade there. Remember when sort of MP1 and 0, 360 they come out and said they're going to be profitable, can be turned around. That's basically sort of be used for the company, which will basically get, you find basically the stock will gap up, trade probably 2 or 3 times the average volume, and then finish strong on the day. And that's a really good signal. That's I've sort of coined that game changer trade for me personally, and sort of keep a little diary of those when I see them. But they don't happen very often. But I thought Paradigm might have been one of those on Tuesday, but it gapped up pretty strong. It sort of faded. Then it rallied during the day. I thought, okay, this looks like I could be on here. And in the last hour and a half, just sold off and finished weak in the day. I thought, wow, it's sort of like, I thought that was pretty good news. Yeah, in another market, that would have probably been a really, really strong sign here. But it just sort of showed to me, well, this market's it's weak. People want to sort of sell into any good news here. So yeah, so I thought it was a bit surprising there, but probably the indication as to the breadth of the market at the moment. But definitely wanted to keep an eye on there. I thought that was a cracking result there from Paradigm. So yeah, one to watch. Has popped up here, but has been met by plenty of selling so far. Every time it has popped up, it has been met by selling. So just keep that in mind. PIE number 5 on the list. I thought that was okay. It's had a little bit of a move there. Not particularly great volume, but okay. Thought Patriot Metals is sort of PMT. Again, it's had a bit of a bounce here, but still in a downtrend. Hasn't broken a swing high yet, but just one to sort of keep an eye on. Just because it's sort of showing a bit of strength there where the market's sort of weak. EEG. So this is sort of one of our first gold stocks here to grey. So this is a bit of a laggard there. Obviously sort of coming off a deeper low. But what you're seeing there is good volume there, Chris. So nice impulsive rally, pretty strong volume there. So those are pretty good signs. American Rare Earth, ARR. Pretty small one there, just sort of, normally I wouldn't sort of touch this, but that's the price is tightening up here. Hasn't broken out yet, but just one to sort of keep an eye on there. Just
that's VCP coiling down in there.
Potentially a little VCP, yeah. You'd like to sort of see it a little bit higher up, or you'd like to have seen a probably more impulsive sort of move prior to that. But yeah, they can start that way sometimes. So definitely one to keep an eye on there. SSR is probably the biggest silver stock on the Aussie market, so it does dual trade. So it is one there that if silver does light up, you probably see SSR sort of move. But it's a pretty hard. I've traded this on before. It's not the most liquid stock. It's hard to sort of move freely in and out. So I wouldn't be trading in big licks. Is all I'd say there. OBM. Thought this looked okay here. It's sort of a couple of high lows sort of tightening up here. Big sort of volume line there the last few days. Potentially might break out of this little holding pattern there. It's a little small for me, but I thought that looked okay. Some of the other gold laggard here was Regis Resources there. So it looks okay here, but not the strongest there. So you can see that, you can see how it's really 3 tiers there to gold. It's sort of, you've got Ramelius and West Gold, maybe Gold Road stuff that have really taken off early. You've got the rest of the stocks, probably 2/3 sort of sitting in that, all took off last week. So like Northern Star and Perseus, I think RSG, and then you've got the laggards there that are sort of, moved 3 weeks later here. So these are probably the ones not to trade because if they haven't moved until, we've got the early movers, we've got the mass movers, and then we've got the late movers. So these sort of laggards there, probably the ones not to be trading this week here. The only exception to that I sort of saw was a little one, which was CYL, which is called Catalyst Metals. Only because this is sort of like, it's a fairly, I think this is sort of like a new, or it's an old asset sort of rolled into Catalyst and sort of new management there, and they're sort of starting to sort of turn this around. So just started to get production going again and got some pretty good numbers there. And so I think asset's been sold out of another entity and moved into here. But I've just noticed there's some pretty good names actually on the list here for Catalyst as well, the management and on the board and stuff there. So definitely want to keep an eye on. You can see the trading volumes are really elevated. So some big volume lines starting to go through here off this low. Do like the fact that we've had a nice impulsive move. Bit of a corrective pattern, probably a bit too much volume in there. Probably sort of prefer to see a bit lighter, but we have seen the volume push again, and then now we've seen this little tight sort of congestion there. So we've got a little BCP setting up in here, Chris. We are in a leading sector as well. Obviously, gold is looking pretty good. So I do like this little BCP. Love this little tightness in here. So I think if this breaks this, we'll get 65.5 here. That's probably want to keep an eye on there. I think if it can get above 65.5 there, it might be the best way. But it does read quite well, right sector there. It seems to be moves afoot, so definitely one to keep an eye on, even though it's a little small. It does look all right. Elders, number 20 here. So this is showing a bit of strength there. Pretty interesting one, Elders. I like this stock here because it's a trend trading stock. So when it goes up, it tends to run up pretty quickly, and when it goes down, it tends to run down pretty quickly. It's a bit of a V-shaped sort of stock. If you look at the history of the stock, go back even further, it's really it's a big mover. It's up, down. Look at those moves: up, down, up, down. Some of these moves here, it doesn't break a weekly swing low. So basically, last week's low holds, last week hold. You can go 7. You can go 3 weeks without breaking a swing low. You can go 7 weeks. You can go 10 weeks. Even on the way down, I think, even just recently, this had like 7 weeks down. I think it only broke a swing high by 1 cent. I think this 6 or 7 weeks up, I think it only broke 1 swing weekly low as well. So it is a stock that really sort of trends. So I quite like that. So I noticed I actually did put it, just because I've sort of come to follow this stock for quite a while and know that it does move pretty big there. I did sort of catch this move here. I just played it from a trend perspective there. So really looking at it from almost like a turtle trading kind of conceptualized there. And it did run there for about 6 or 7 weeks before it broke down. This thing here, once it broke above 582, for me it's kind of in play. So I don't, we buy it after it breaks 582. We put the stop in this week 555, and who knows how long and how far this can run. So it could just keep going. It might only last 3 weeks and then correct. But some stocks have this personality there, like a commodity. I notice Elders definitely does have that. It's just got the ability to rally for many, many weeks and turn down. Look at just one of those stocks. It's interesting there. So could fail here and reverse out and be a loser there. But I just noticed it's a really, really interesting sort of trending stock. And for those that like to sort of try and trade trends there, I think it's an interesting one.
That's definitely a good momentum mover.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it's holding up pretty well here the last few days as well is a good sign too, Chris. So it's actually been pretty robust there. So I guess we just don't know how far. That's the beauty of trading. Sometimes you just get your process and your rules and see how it works out. Elders there. So PRU was on the list. That's just obviously been a bit of a laggard there in that gold space. MAY, number 24. Not too bad. A little bit of a jump out of the range there. It's got a few higher lows sort of setting up there as well for the bigger picture. Just not a lot of volume there, but interesting, like showing a bit of strength there. This is Woodside there. So I would have thought, we're still in a bit of a downtrend there. The problem I have with Walkers is that September to December is seasonally the weakest period for all stocks. And if we go back and look at a 10-year period, probably 7 out of 10 years, there's a fairly large decline in all stocks. in that period there. It's just a seasonal. It's just a weak period there. So I'm always a bit nervous about being long in that sort of period there. So it has sort of had a pretty much so far. It's had that September peak here and a weekend off here. And even though we're getting some pretty spike at oil price, it's not really kicking on that much. I mean, even like Santos is still okay. So maybe Santos is looking a bit better here because it's now broken above a swing high, but it hadn't broken a swing high before then. I did look at the weekly. I thought, oh, this does look okay. It's does look like a bit of a cup and handle set up here. So this one does look a little better. Does break that. Maybe we go back and retest the high here again. But yeah, it's just interesting. They're not, I would have thought they would have been a bit stronger here, these stocks here. Even sort of Beach as well. I thought that, again, it's pretty tight here. I thought this is really what might have actually got going here today. But look, the weekly charts still look pretty good. So Santos is definitely the pick, in my opinion, there, just because it has held pretty tight there. There is a big sort of cup and handle pattern there as well, which would be like those cup and handles. So that is the pick of the oil stocks in there. I think the last one there was Renchi. Yeah, but I quite like Rennie. This has had this sort of larger, kind of pullback there. This is sort of one of those, I know sort of a lot of small cap guys do like this sort of stock there. It's sort of a lot of sort of good fund managers there. We're sort of dumbfounded by this move when it reported. But maybe that high expectations, it reported pretty well, but it sold off into that good news. Sometimes these things happen. But it has come back sort of, for me, it's big sort of large ABC here. We're sort of starting to build here. Companies buy back some of their shares as well. Obviously, making reasonable money here. But I love the fact that it's still largely a bit of a square correction there. So impulses move and a bit of a pullback here. I do like the fact that we've had a little false break in here. So here's one that I don't mind here. I was actually quite surprised and happily surprised to see it on the list, actually. I'd like to see, it's always nice to sort of see stocks that you own holding up well when the market's pretty weak. So I thought that looks okay. Hey, the only thing I'll say here, I had an experience this week, Chris. I had I bought some corporate trustee. I had a really tight little coil in here, little VCP on a half hourly there. Sort of wasn't really my sort of what I call it like an A setup, so I didn't have a big position there, but I did sort of trade some of this. Ones that sort of broke out of this little ingestion pattern. I did buy some there, and the stocks had a pretty good run, and it had a pretty good result out there a couple of days ago. And one of my rules is basically once I'm sort of up more than 1% of my, if I risk say 1% of my capital, that's my maximum. Once I'm up by more than 1% of my capital, I really should be moving myself to break even. So once it's had a pretty good move, I really should be getting to break even. So I did move this to break even. I think it was the 16.12. It reported 2 days ago. For some reason it flashed down to 16.09 to stop me out by 3 cents, and then finished a dollar higher straight back here. So look, it's one of those things that's sort of, it happens there. It can be quite frustrating there. Look, to me, I didn't lose any money. I basically covered my brokerage, so I think I made 38 cents or something. Obviously won't get me much, but I have followed my process. So if I go back and review that trade, I've done everything right. I just one of those things that happens there. Look, you could argue this day here was a reporting day. This was a reporting day. It does have a history of kind of almost selling off into good reporting days and then recovering sort of post those. So that's the only sort of thing that does happen occasionally. Maybe you sort of said, oh, look, maybe there could be a little inverse head and shoulders here. Could give us a bit more room here, but you got to follow your process there. So as traders there, I guess the lesson for me is, and for everyone else there, is that we shouldn't just sort of throw the baby out with the bathwater. If we get one of those sort of incidents there where it just sort of stops you out by a few cents, that oftentimes as the new traders, that'll happen to you and you go, oh, I want to change everything, If you've had a process, for me, I've had a process which has worked pretty well for the last probably 2.5 years. And it's worked for me. I've doubled my results in the last 2.5 years to my previous trading by following a sort of pretty strict process. I know it works, but we're going to get trades there where they hurt, or maybe they're a little frustrating. And, it's sort of like the It's the whole psychology of trading there, sort of, not making peace with a loss. The research demonstrates if you lose during the day early, you tend to take greater risks in the afternoon. So you want to sort of get it back, So as traders there, we sort of know that, me personally, I just thought, okay, if I'm reviewing that trade, I've done everything right. If anything, it was probably like a B class trade. It wasn't like an A class sort of setup for me. And for me, I didn't have a big position on, so I sort of followed those sort of rules as well. So the key there is just, these things happen. Just we have to accept it and move on. It's just important really to sort of keep your process in check here. Don't throw it out there. Just keep reviewing your trades there. Just, if you can basically stand back and review it and go, yeah, I've done everything that I sort of said I was going to do. And that's all we can do as traders.
So it might have been a B trade, and you proportionately sized the trade to it being a B trade. But your ability to follow the process, would you grade yourself as an A in following your process, moving the stop up once you'd made 1% of capital?
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, look, if I was a bit distracted there, and I'd only just moved it up too. That's the thing. I was really only just So if I was a little slow, I wouldn't have actually got that. So if I hadn't actually followed my process correctly,
and still profit,
I might still have the position, but then I go back and go, I actually didn't follow the process correctly. So I've done everything. Done everything. I've sort of it's just one of those things that it doesn't happen very often there, where you sort of I know sometimes everyone says, they go hunting for my stops. That's not true, right? There's so many traders out there. There's certain levels and stuff there. I mean, to me, I could have, if I looked at it a bit closely, I would have known that on the days that it did report tend to have a bit of a swing. So I could have maybe left half on, or maybe split my orders a little bit, but I didn't have a big position on. So if I'd had like a bigger position on there, I might have put half of it a bit further back and half of it higher. Because the beauty of that is sometimes you split your sort of stops, because I like to build into a position. So I also sort of like to build out a position as well. So if you do get a pullback sometimes, something like a little sharp there, maybe you only get stopped down to half your position, still keep a core position. It's good, and then you're sort of watching it, and then a bit like the ticker data for me, I didn't have a big position there. I think I sort of went in at once, got stopped out, went in again. Whole thing was congesting. I thought, well, I'm holding this position. I'm really in a swap position. What am I doing? So I just, I'm in or I'm out. So I added to the position, and then the whole thing popped, and then, good. So by actually sort of having those sort of, by staggering in there, it does keep you sort of watching it as well. So, and that's actually quite good.
Well, that's a good insight to finish on the week. You've talked about the sectors, the leading themes, moving from the launch pad to momentum, and the timeframes that can happen, oil, gold, finding game trading shares. So that's also a good one of reviewing your trades. While the trade might not have been the best, complimenting and commending yourself for actually following the process as it should be and as you've set it up, even though it didn't yield the optimal result for the market conditions.
Yeah, I'm going to give you too, Chris, here as well, because we're doing this report for a while now, and I was actually, I gave you a wrap yesterday on those because actually I was sort of covering gold there, but we found here with your 30-30 report, we've been watching this for a couple of years now, that probably around once a quarter, we see like one sector light up that launch pad there, and it might even be over 2 or 3 weeks there, and we saw it. We saw this with uranium, would have been 12 weeks ago, basically, as this was breaking out of a base here. So as this deep yellow is coming out of this consolidation there, I think BOE was coming out of this. All that look how tight that thing was. That basically sort of sat on top of the previous high, did this big sideways consolidation there. That broke out on the launch pad that week there. Yeah. So we know that every time we see a whole sector all light up that list, and it doesn't happen very often. It might only happen like once every sort of maybe 8, 10, 12 weeks or something there. But we saw it with lithium, middle of the year. We saw it with uranium there 12 weeks ago, but we just seen it with gold here. So we've got, the gold's moving here quite nicely. So it's a one sector which is going up here. So I mean, our golds are actually doing pretty well here, but your data is telling us here this might just be the start of the year. So we've got to obviously we've got to put a stop in there, and we've got to follow our process here. But your report's basically sort of telling us here this potentially can be a bigger move here. So we see only a handful of stocks in there. Maybe you only get a sort of half decent move here, but I know your data basically tells us here when we see a sector light up the launch pad there for a couple of weeks in a row, do not take that lightly. They can be some really big moves here. So and so far it's been bang on. It's the golds is humming here, so they're all looking quite good. They all flashed down, made some pretty good signals. So for traders who have sort of certain rules, they look for congestion or for false breaks or whatever they're looking for. You still can't just go and buy things willy-nilly. But we're now basically, that sector should be on our watch list. We should be looking at the stocks who are leading. So don't worry about that list of stocks that were on the today on the launch pad. We avoid those gold stocks because they're the laggards. So it's taken 3 weeks for them to sort of catch up to the leaders. Okay, so they're the ones we don't play. We play the ones that have been in the list for the last 2 weeks. They're leading in that sector. So we basically want to see that sector there. They'll hopefully light it up. Then they'll have some congestion there, some sideways moves there. We saw BOE here, it lit it up, congestion, lit it up, congestion, lit up, congested, lit it up, congested. That's the same thing with deep yellow. They did exactly the same thing. They all sort of they popped, had a bit of a breather, popped. Well, that's a little sideways pattern there, nice and tight. Popped again, nice, another nice and tight sort of sideways pattern there. So that's why it won't just go straight up here. But what we're looking for, we want to keep seeing these consolidations sort of setting up here. So we're just going to be patient here now, wait for really constructive sort of tight little consolidations. And we don't see sort of any selling, on those sort of downward consolidations. We can enter safely there. That's what good traders, they're going to be patient here, just going to wait for these setups here. But your report is telling us here that that's the sector we must be watching here for the next few weeks.
Well, that we definitely will. And thank you for that. We'll also be using your insight to guide us through and unpack the charts to identify where the support is, resistance, understand the volume and those opportunities. So with that, we say thank you very much, Gary Glover from Novus Capital.
Thanks, Chris.
Gary's mentioned setups, research, inflation data, why small mid-caps aren't necessarily good in this kind of environment. There's a whole playlist of Gary's insights and research and setups to the right, and also how he runs his portfolios. He's talked about the gold shares. These are the shares that he's trading. He talks about the setups, stops, and how to manage them in that other playlist. And then on the left is his Twitter handle or his X handle if you want to follow Gary there.